obscure world of parking. We use it every day, but have we really capitalized on the intricacies of our industry? In this podcast, the Parking Network will go behind the scenes and talk to industry professionals about all things parking, from the horizon of evolving technology and even stories of the old days. We hope to encourage and inspire operators and property managers alike to look at parking through a new lens. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Our Parking Industry Podcast. I'm Krista Olien, and I'm joined by Clyde Wilson and Leigh Thomas. Today, we're going to do our follow-up roundtable episode about our interview with the Tennessee Attorney General, Jonathan Skrimetti. We had a great conversation about a current case that just was finalized in the state of Tennessee. It was regarding a $9 million settlement with Metropolis Parking on behalf of parkers in the state of Tennessee. And we had some very interesting insights into customer rights and regulations that are put into place by legal teams in different states and different areas, and how these types of issues that arise in any industry, but in this particular case in parking, can impact customers and eventually get to the point where they're legal issues. So, Clyde, what was your biggest takeaway from the conversation with General Skrimetti?
I thought he was very kind to our industry, and it was very interesting to listen to what he had to say. Basically, he started off with, we're a transitional industry like a lot of other industries. When you're a transitional industry, you're going from the way people used to do things to these new ways. Krista then immediately brought up a good point that this technology is coming at us from all over the world. So we have this change of an industry, technology coming from everywhere, and it's causing difficulties with our customers. So the most important thing is we have to understand that. If you're going to put the new technology out there, we as an industry have to understand that, and that our customers aren't driving up and sticking their finger out the window to push a button anymore to get a ticket. It's something else. So we have to do a better job of understanding it's new and understanding there are problems, and be prepared, not hide from the problems, be out in front.
Yeah, I agree. He was very kind, and he did acknowledge that we're in a transformational period, and we've talked about that on this podcast a lot. I think about a current job that we have right now. We're dealing with a property in California, and we're working with a company out of New Zealand. And we recently had a call with their security team that was talking about the different federal regulations and how the equipment that is global, because it's out of New Zealand, can be federally appropriate for things in the United States. And so not only with security and that kind of thing, but customer service in the United States is also an important thing to consider whenever we think about customers that are experiencing a problem. How do we help them? How do we best support them in this global conversation? So, Leigh, what was your favorite takeaway from the conversation with General Skrimetti?
Hey, thanks. I really noticed in our conversation how often Attorney General Skrimetti talked about the emotions at play through this whole, through his research and the types of calls that he received. And I also thought his kindness and his acknowledgement of consumer rights are across every industry. But as he was talking about those consumer rights and how the parking industry is held to the same standards as other industries, I just kept thinking, but what's up with the emotion? Why does a parking experience evoke big emotions in us? And then as I've thought about that and then visited with you all about it, I realize now that our industry is different because our customers are trapped.
Yes, they are. In a parking lane, entry or exit.
Yeah, but there's no other industry where as a customer, I'm trying to buy the thing that my family needs and I am physically stuck. That is a very emotional experience. And so that takes our customer service to a different level. We have to figure out how to solve every problem and get better at it and not just be accepting of a 2% fail rate. We've got to fix them. So tell me about that, Clyde. I know you have a lot of experience with this trapped customer, and I'm going to quote you if you don't say the thing I want you to say.
Well, okay, so there are two. First of all, I'll use the example of Starbucks. And in Starbucks, we were installing a new technology right across the street from a Starbucks. So I was visiting Starbucks more often than I normally do. But on my cell phone, I had a Starbucks app, that had money on it, and I could just pay with my phone, right? So when you're visiting Starbucks too much, then the amount of money on the phone goes down, down, down. And so you're in line. It was a busy Starbucks. So you're in line, and I would call my Starbucks app up and look to see if I had enough money in it to pay for what I'm about to order. And if I didn't, I would start scrambling through trying to get it paid, but the line's moving forward. And so I always knew I had an option. If I get to the front of the line and I'm next, I can just step to the side and not hold up the line to let people go ahead, fix my problem that I caused, and then either step back in line if somebody's nice enough to let me back in or go to the end of the line. When you're a car in an entry and exit, you can't do that. You can't step to the side. You're there, and guarantee you the person that's going to blow their horn at you is the one that drove in right behind you. So the horn's coming. That upsets me. Now I'm nervous. I've got this person mad, may have two people back there mad, and there's nobody there to help me. I can't see anybody. There's nobody here to help. So that's the problem. And then I know the one Leigh is referring to of my comments next is the most important customer we have is the one that can't manipulate the new technology and to get the gate to go up. And what have we done? We've decided to, if they ever can figure out how to push the button and talk to somebody, we've decided to ship that overseas to somebody that may have, no offense to language problems, but we may not be able to understand on a microphone and all this stuff and a speaker. And most of the people that is being shipped to don't own a car and don't drive and or have ever used the technology we're using. I think it's the most biggest mistake we in this industry have made in that we've shipped that overseas or shipped it here to a company that's not my company. I can't talk to the people in the call center and say, guys, here's what we're doing today. Here are some of the problems we're having. We're really having a problem at this location. We're working to get this resolved. I can't talk to them. They don't belong to me. This is the single most important problem, customer. And we've just said, we don't really care about you.
Yeah. I think another piece, there's a third one. We have turned customer service into an AI solution. And so a lot of these companies that are coming in are saying, we are an AI first model. I actually heard that quoted a week ago at a convention, is that our model is AI first, which is great and it sounds awesome. But what happens whenever the AI fails? What happens whenever the AI fails? How do we take care of our trapped customers that are now emotional? They're under stress. They're feeling the pressure of people behind them, or they're not able to get out of the facility and they need to be somewhere else. They have their family in the car. Who knows what's going on? But whenever we send our customer service to AI, and people are not able to speak to people, that also can invoke a lot of emotion, and it can heighten our mistrust of the technology that's in place because I can't get a solution to my problem. I was charged for a parking session that was across the country from where I'm sitting on my couch, but I can't talk to a human to resolve that. And I wasn't even there. I didn't even drive a car. So this LPR misread rate being charged inappropriately, and then the issue of not being able to tap into the recourse that you need to solve the problem that you're facing, whether it's because there is no one to talk to on site. If you call customer service, it's a language barrier and really difficult to communicate, or you're interacting with an AI model that, sometimes it puts you into a loop where it just says, thank you for your call, and then hangs up on you. We had that experience with Microsoft actually internally. We kept getting in this AI loop where it would say, thanks for calling, and it would hang up on us and hang up on us. And then it got to where it recognized our phone number and it would just go straight to the message where it said, thank you for calling, and it would hang up without being able to do anything. And it's like, oh no, we need a human. So I think that can definitely elevate those emotions of the people experiencing the problems. I know, Clyde, we've talked about a flow through and focus point. And if we think about the customer that's facing the problem, the number one thing they were using did not work. So AI first,
Right.
technology first, gated, gateless. We could have a whole gateless conversation about this.
We'll skip that one to another 2 hours.
If the number one solution, whatever the technology that's in place, doesn't work, we have to make sure that the number two solution works. So with the phone number that we've talked about on this podcast. That solution gave a safety net to those people whose LPR did not read appropriately. They could use their phone number. There was a number 2 solution. Or with Focus Point, the number 2 solution was the command center. They could call and talk to someone that had a college degree, spoke English, and was their account manager for that location. So they were intimately aware of the location.
We served it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was always somebody in there that spoke Spanish. So we covered both. One of the things that I thought that in the subject you're talking about, that General Skrimetti said that I thought was so interesting, that, somebody that's not in the parking business picked up on before most of us, it seems, picked up on it. If you're going to create this technology and it has problems, and and you can't then bill the customer $75 for exiting your garage and not paying the appropriate amount. You can't punish the customer for your mistakes. And that's what we're seeing out there in the parking world right now. So that does tend to upset. I don't understand why, but it does tend to upset people when you charge them a penalty because your stuff didn't work. My LPR read my LPR with the T upside down or something and thought it was a L. So, and then said, well, you never exited the garage, you get paid, you get a bill for $75. So I thought that was very interesting because it was true. We know the technology is difficult. It's going to be better for all of our customers. We know there's a percentage of our customers who are not going to just automatically shift over to new technology. So guess what? The number 2 solution has to be sitting right there waiting to help. Highly trained help.
I wonder if we called, I don't know, Disney or the Four Seasons or a company that specializes in luxury customer service. If we were to call and say, your most important customer is going to call you today, how are you going to treat that? Like, what is the priority or what is the procedure for providing care to your most important customer? And Clyde, what you said earlier about customer who just pushed the call button at the exit gate is the most important customer. And so how are you treating that customer? And that is the most important job of the management on site. The local people have got to take care of that customer.
I did some research on customer service and how some of these AI first companies are implementing customer service. And the one that I found most interesting that the 3 of us experienced together, we didn't have a problem, but we've ridden in one together, was Waymo. I did some research on what Waymo does for customer service. And I think it's very similar into the idea that the customer's trapped because they're inside of a car, wherever that car is. So they are also experiencing heightened emotion. So I think it has some parallels to a customer in their own personal vehicle stuck in a traffic lane, exiting a facility. But Waymo, I think everybody can argue that it's AI first, right? It's a AI driven vehicle that you're riding in, but their customer service is supported by humans. And I was reading case studies and different scenarios, and it was people's experiences, and they were very happy with the customer service. And overall, everybody's reflection on how their bad situation was handled and rectified by Waymo, they were generally pretty good, because in the Waymo, if you push the customer service or the help button that's in the vehicle, a human comes on the speaker of the car and talks to you and talks through the problem, and they can see that the car's experiencing technical problems and that it's stopped in the middle of a lane. They can tell exactly where you are, how much traffic is around you. Like, they have all of this information, but it's a human talking through with an emotional person that's running late to something, that's stuck in a vehicle, that can't just jump out of the car because there's traffic around them and there's no footpath. One of the stories I read, they said the person that I first talked to couldn't solve my problem. So they added another person onto the call. So then there was a 3-way call going on in the Waymo so that they could go to the extent they needed to go to rectify the problem and provide that immediate recourse for the passenger in the car. So I thought that was a really cool story and kind of a model we should follow, that if AI first fails, we have to be sure that the number 2 is so sound that everyone is happy by the end of it.
The ultimate customer service company, Waymo or self-driving cars, any ones of the ones that are out there. And our experience, the place that had the most opportunity for mistakes, our experience was wonderful. We had a great time. We were ready to line up and buy one.
We did see one that was stalled out though. So I'm curious what was going on inside of that car. It wasn't ours, but We did see one that was stalled out, but I'm sure they were getting great service to solve their problem.
So something else that Attorney General Skrimetti recommended on that episode was, speaking of customer service, knowing your facility well enough that you provide your customers more than they need to have a successful experience. And he was specifically talking about the grace period. You know, don't be chinchy, as my grandmother would say. Don't be chinchy about your customer service. Be generous. If it's going to take your customers 9 minutes to drive every level of your facility to trying to find a spot, then don't make your grace period 10 minutes. You know, give your customers more than they need. So this kind of ties to something that the TPN talks about a lot, is that you have to know your customers, who is in your garage, and you have to know them in order to provide the service that they need, and then be able to provide even over and above what they need.
Right. We had a garage that we just did a financial review on, and it had a number of different customer types. And now that you say that, it makes me think about that one in particular. It had daily parkers that park there every day, but it also had two groups. It had a hotel that wasn't valet. So those people just don't park in a garage every day. And they don't park in that one but once a year. And then in the building was a medical center with all day long, their customers are generally older, generally not healthy, and don't park in a parking garage. So what Leigh just said about knowing your customers, then you darn well better know in that garage, you better be on top of service, because the hotel people who stay there 3 days and get hit with this huge charge or whatever issue with license plates that are not local, so may have difficulty reading, customers who are older and just may not understand the technology or have any hope of understanding the technology, then we have to be ready for them. More so, that garage needed a higher level of customer service than the garage at 4th and Main, period, because of who's parking in there. And I think the thing that bothers me the most is that we had to have this Attorney General from Tennessee tell us about our industry. That's upsetting.
I think he really understands customer service. So that's why it was so applicable to what we're talking about, is he understands customer service, what it takes for customers to have recourse, the rights of customers. And that's something we've kind of forgotten, is we really are here to provide good customer service. We've touched on it a little bit, but for those people that are saying if they're stuck in the lane, then gateless is the right answer, right? But with gateless comes this concept or this idea of penalties, so tickets and receiving notifications in the mail about fines and penalties. And we've talked about that a little bit with General Skrimetti, but what are some issues with those high $75 penalties that you get in the mail after the fact? What are some issues with that, and gateless being the answer to this problem of being stuck in a lane?
Yeah, well, I'll make my answer, and then I'll let Leigh step in with hers. First of all, I've been in the parking industry a long time. The parking industry always had a bad name for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons we had a bad name was because we had ticket people out roaming around on scooters writing tickets to everybody. And the last time I parked at a parking meter, we got a ticket and the damn meter didn't work. You know, we couldn't make it work, and everything was full. So we were going to park there no matter what. And we got a ticket, $75 ticket. So everybody hates on-street parking because you get tickets all the time, and nobody likes to admit they had a problem. So if you gave me a ticket, I know I paid enough, it's your meter's broken, whatever. They can come up with 100 excuses. So on-street parking and writing tickets has given the industry a bad name. Why in the heck do we want to bring that off-street and add to that by not putting gates in, but buddy, if you don't figure out the problem, you're going to get a $75 ticket in the mail. And the price is going to go up if you don't pay it right away. Why do we want to do that? The gate's not a problem for us. And everybody calls it frictionless. It's not frictionless. If you're a monthly parker, you drive up and the gate goes up. Or you drive up and there's no gate and you drive through. But if you're a visitor and you don't know what the heck to do and you get a nasty ticket, it's not frictionless, buddy. Guarantee you.
Well, you know, we talked about this with Attorney General Skrimetti, that the idea is to reduce surprises. That is the whole point, right? Is that an educated customer should be able to make the decision that's best for the family or the business or whatever, and then no surprises. But if you have gateless, Anything that transpires after exiting the facility is going to be a surprise because the consumer is going to think, I left, it's done, I've done everything I needed to do. Nope, turns out, surprise, oh, here's your ticket or here's your fee. So I think I would like to really focus on that is how are we reducing surprise? Is Gateless reducing surprise? I don't see that.
You know, we know a lot of people out there who are doing gateless parking and are totally sold on what they're selling. And our opinion is obviously different from that. We won't use this podcast to talk about it any more than it's just another level of what General Skrimetti was talking about. And so the getting around to what this is all about is we're in a business that the technology is changing. So is it with everybody out there. I mean, every industry in the world almost is going through technology changes now. And we're not done. AI just showed up. In the terms of the time scope that we as a group have talked about many times, when something new happens, a paradigm shift, you're not tomorrow at the end goal. You didn't make it all tomorrow. It kind of happens over time. Well, that time is a learning process. It's a learning process too. This was a great idea, but we got to change it a little bit. We've got to change it some more. We have to do this. Oh, this part of it, LPR, is an issue. It's great to have it, but we've got to solve that problem. And so we as a parking industry have to go into this new age of technology with that sitting there out in front. It's not going to work all the time, and it's our customers that it's going to impact. And a big part of our business now, where we thought we were in the customer service business before, man, we're dead in it now because there's nobody, as General Skrimetti said, sitting there in a booth to say, oh, that's okay. Yeah, I got it. I'll raise the gate and let you out because you're under the 15-minute grace period. There's nobody doing that. That customer's now trapped in a lane. And what do I do?
Yeah.
We've got to give them information.
We talked about with General Skrimetti, the tickets, and he made a point that I didn't even consider. So in the findings, they talked a lot about the notices that looked like government communications and how that was a big no-no. But then he also talked about the ones that look so innocuous that you just throw them away because they look like junk mail, and how that is a strategy to increase those penalties because, oh, they didn't pay the first one, so let's tack on some more, or a percentage increase. And so I had not considered that strategy, that it might be a technique that people are using to try to invoke more money from penalties, from the original penalty. And we know government communications, copycatting that is not a good look. But the innocuous ones had not occurred to me.
I hadn't thought of that. And when I heard him say that, I thought, boy, I never thought of that one. It should have been right out in front, but I never thought about it. Another way to make more money in the parking business, right? Run the tab up forever. Yeah, I know if I get a parking ticket in the mail, I'm probably it's going to the trash, especially if it looks like nothing. So my bill is going to not be $75. My bill is going to be $750.
Absolutely. So we had the opportunity to talk with General Skrimetti of Tennessee, but is this problem, do you think this is only occurring in Tennessee, or why have we not seen more of this kind of thing coming up across the country, or even globally? Why is Tennessee kind of pushing the envelope on how this was brought to such a big platform, or a high platform?
Well, I'm not sure I know the answer to the question, but I think I know the answer to the question. In Tennessee, when they came out early on, Nashville was one of the first locations where Metropolis had a start because they bought a local company. And they gave a nasty parking ticket to an attorney in Nashville who said, I'm not going to pay this. I know how to get you. And then it started there. And then it made the paper. Every time I'm home, as to people on this podcast don't know, I'm a native of Nashville. So every time I go home to a family reunion or something, I have a couple of my cousins come up to me and say, what's going on with this Metropolis thing? Every time. It's in the paper, in the news. And it's really turned into a great thing because if it hasn't hit the other cities, Nashville wasn't the only one getting this. So it's turned into a great thing because it's helped our industry to really recognize the challenges of technology, and has nothing to do with the subject of the lawsuit or the subject of the last podcast. It has everything to do with this is a change for all of us. And the technology changes are here for all of us. We have to understand there's this other part of our business now we better pay attention to, and that's customer service, customer communications. If we don't, there are going to be more General Skrimettis out there.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the important parts too, is that this isn't about Metropolis and this isn't about Tennessee. Neither of those are super unique in their current approach to preserving customer rights and pushing the envelope on technology and implementation in a growing industry. I think we can all kind of take something away from this conversation and learn a lesson about how we can do better. If we're pursuing technology, we can't just let customer service fall to the wayside. We have to keep both kind of going simultaneously or parallel to one another to support those customers in that evolution. We really enjoyed this conversation, and we hope that everybody in the industry and maybe beyond the parking industry can take something away and learn how to better support customers if their industry is changing and evolving. And we hope that you will join us next time on the Our Parking Industry podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
To quote one of the greatest business minds of our time, Charles Munger, he said, "The best thing a human can do is help another human being know more." Here on Our Parking Industry podcast, we want to provide knowledge and resources. If you heard something that sparked your curiosity in today's episode, please reach out on our socials at TPN Consulting. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. See you next time on Our Parking Industry.